everyone, and welcome to Geraldine's super secret author vlog. I'm glad you're joining me this morning. So today I'm going to talk about how I became a freelance writer and a freelance ghostwriter. I do both. I do freelance writing and editing, and then also ghostwriting, but ghostwriting's been the main stuff I've done. It's been really enjoyable. And this video is for my patrons only. Hello everybody. If any of you guys have tried Upwork before, it's not always easy to get started. Let's put it that way, because I gave it a shot at first when I first heard about it, and I submitted a bunch of proposals, probably 5 or 6, and heard nothing back from anybody. So I gave up on it, and that was that. But then our local writers group has really good workshops and like monthly meetings and stuff, and so they had a particular night where a writer who had been freelance writing and supporting his family for like 15 years talked about it. So I went to that and I learned so much, and I learned several specific things that when I applied them, that's when I started getting work on Upwork as a freelance writer. So one of the main things I learned was when you're submitting your proposal, you don't just want to put, here I am and this is what I do. You actually want, and this is good for any resume letter, right? You want to say what you can do for them. Like, this is what your need is. This is what I can do to fulfill your need. So the focus is really on them and how things will help them if they hire you. So instead of the focus being on you, the focus is on them. This is what you need. This is what I can do to solve that problem or to fulfill that need. So changing the wording of my proposals is what made a difference. And then the other thing is he's been doing this for 15 years, and he said it's a numbers game. You can't just submit 5 proposals and then nothing. He says he have to submit, like he'll get 1 job for like every 10 proposals he submits or something like that. So it's a constantly submitting new proposals, looking for new clients. That's just part of the job of being a freelance writer, is you're constantly looking for more work. So once I realized that, I knew that I shouldn't have just given up after 5 tries, and I went back and started submitting more regularly. And I also believe in the law of attraction, and so I think that first client I got that helped me with the ghostwriting, we just were drawn to each other, and my skills perfectly met her need. So she was my first real freelance client, although I had another one that I was working with but who just fell off the face of the map. So I've learned from doing Upwork that sometimes that will happen. Someone will seem interested in you and then they'll just disappear all of a sudden, like right when you're ready to sign the contract and get started, or anytime during the process, or they say they're going to hire you and then they change their mind and they've hired someone else, or vice versa. So just keep in mind, until they actually start the contract on Upwork, it could come or go, it could disappear, whatever. So you just keep working back and forth. Once you start getting some bites off of your proposals, people are interested in you, and then you sometimes do an interview and you talk to them some more. So anyway, I did get my first client who became like my main client, and she hired me as a ghostwriter. Sorry about the dog. Today we have the curtains open, so she barks at anything outside, and it's crazy today. It's like snowing. It's windy and snowing, and just yesterday I was outside in my t-shirt with a little crocheted bolero top, and so yeah, a little bit crazy. Okay, so I just went upstairs to put her in her crate because she's just not allowed to bark constantly like that, and now the sun is out. So you never know in Colorado. One day a blizzard, the next day, you're wearing a t-shirt, and the sun feels really good. No matter what the temperature is outside, it feels 10 degrees warmer when the sun shines. And we get an average of like 382 days of sun a year here, so it's really great. So anyway, so my first client, she was a self-published indie author on Amazon, and she'd written quite a few series, but she had started this series and got stuck. And she only wrote, I'd say, the first 3,000 words. And I had just finished my debut novel, so I just spent the last several years writing, editing, polishing, all that stuff. And it's the genre of fantasy, which is what I specialize in. So my debut novel is a middle grade historical fantasy, and this client wanted me to write urban fantasy for YA. Oh, by the way, I have a secret. I forgot to mention in the last video, which I'll put a link to either on the video if it lets me or down in description. I never know with these copy restrictions what I'm allowed to do. But anyway, I forgot to mention that with my debut novel series, the idea has never been done before, and I was inspired to find a way to make it so that the very ending of the book, of the novel, will be slightly different for everybody. So I'm really looking forward to, when it gets published, seeing how people manage to solve it and hopefully work together, and then also hearing everybody's stories about how the book ended for them. And it's interesting, isn't it? So that's my debut novel, and it's going to be a whole series, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so my first client, so she had written the first 3,000 words of her series, and she really liked my portfolio and the work that I had done on my own novels, you know? And so she hired me, and it was interesting because I had to match her tone and her style, and her character, her YA character, cusses all the time, and I have very little experience with that, so I had to learn how to write a character who cusses all the time, which was quite interesting. But I was able to match her tone, and her series had not been planned. Like, she didn't have the story arc, she didn't even have a villain, and so I spent time, so we ended up doing a thing where she paid me per book, and it was far less than a ghostwriter normally gets paid, but I was just starting out. So when you're on Upwork, you're just starting out in a new skill. It's smart to underbid a little bit so that you can get your portfolio built up. So anyway, she paid me per the book, and it was actually, I think she agreed to pay $1,000 for this, 40 to 50,000 word book to be written. And then on top of that, I worked out an hourly contract with her because I had to do some planning, I had to do research, I had to outline, all this stuff, I had to figure out the story arc and the conflict and the villain, and I ended up kind of planning out the whole arc of the 3 books together. I'm a big picture person, and so I like to plan like that, and especially since it was my first time doing this and she's my first client, I wanted to make sure I outlined it very, very well and that she could see what I was thinking and was good with it all before I started writing. So a lot of extra planning, but we discovered that she loved my ideas and she loved my writing. So then I could get away from running every single thing by her, and had the freedom to just write it as I wanted to. Especially with the second and third book, I was able to do that. So that was really fun. So she actually became my main client on Upwork. And so for the first book, she loved it so much, and I was able to negotiate double my rate that she paid for the first book in order for me to do the second book. And so for that second book, I was actually working part-time hours, but making the same income that I'd been making working full-time temporary at another job. It was I think I was making around $3,200 a month, working 25 hours a week or something like that. I mean, it was really awesome. And so that included both the hourly and then, getting the book done. And at that point, we negotiated $2,000 for the book. So, and I was doing it per quarter of book. So I would get $500 for every quarter of the book I got done. So each book was in 4 parts, and then she would get it and do whatever she wants with it. So she became pretty much my main client for the next couple of years. And, but then for the third book, her money got real tight, and this was going into 2020 and COVID and all that. And so, but I wanted to do it so much, I reduced my rates again for the third book, but then it also reduced my hours that I could work on it. So then my hours went down to 5 hours a week. So then I was looking for new clients, and by then I'd gotten a few clients here and there, mostly smaller projects, but I'd done my first couple of editing projects, which are really fun. And in one fantasy story, he liked my editing so much, but he had not fleshed out his climactic scene, and he actually hired me to write that for him, So things like that was fun. And also I helped edit some content for an app, and it was spirituality, which is right up my alley. I love that kind of stuff. So basically, to be a successful freelance writer, you have to, it's a numbers game, so you have to have part of your work week constantly seeking out new clients. And that's not something I have enjoyed doing myself. I prefer to have one main client or two main clients and just my, a regular project. And I was really blessed with that first client because she had me write books one, and I gave myself 4 months for every book, which was awesome because it gave me time for research and everything else. And so I wrote book one, and then I wrote book two, and then I wrote book three over a period of over a year. So she pretty much, that one client basically was supporting me. I had like little temporary extra jobs here and there, but yeah, that was good. And then all of a sudden she needed, I think her money ran out or something because she said she had to take a break. She still wants me to write book 4, but it was amazing that I had that one client for so long. But then in 2020, she just suddenly, without communicating with me, said, I need to take a break for a bit. I still want you to write book 4, but we'll work on that later. At least I hope she still wants me to write book 4 because I had already started like figuring it out in my head. I've got, connections and stuff like that. Like that was my main work, and then I didn't have it. So then I was back to the numbers game of submitting proposals all the time, but also praying and attracting regular work because like I said, I don't like constantly looking for new clients myself. And most of those jobs were like little jobs that were just $100 here, $130 there. I wrote 2 children's books, which was so fun. But I underbid again, kind of by accident. I didn't know how long it would take me, but I did it, like the first short children's book for $130 and the second one for $130. But how many times she went back wanting me to change stuff and not take into account a little bit of research time. I really should have charged $250 per book minimum, But that's the kind of thing you learn when you do a job. This is my first time doing children's books, so I didn't know. Now I know, charge a minimum of $250 for a simple little children's book that's rhyming, So anyway, I was so glad to get those jobs, and now those are on my portfolio. And I got hired to write an article on a website, so that was really fun. So, I've done a good variety of different things now that have added to my portfolio. Then I was wanting a regular job, and I was, through Upwork, able to land basically a part-time job. I mean, I'm a subcontractor through Upwork, but I'm working for this one company, and started out at 20 hours a week. They've upped me to 25 hours a week. Again, the pay is, by the time I take out taxes and the Upwork fee and everything, my pay doesn't end up being all that much. But to me, it's a worthy investment because I love the company. I love working with them. I love the work that I do. It's really enjoyable. And having a part-time job forces you to organize the rest of your life. And so that's been a big, huge plus. And they love the work that I'm doing. And so there's always a possibility that my pay will increase over time, or that I'll get hired by them, or who knows what's going to happen. But just really grateful to have regular work again. I don't have to be constantly looking for new clients. And yeah, now I'm just putting in these 25 hours a week, and it was really interesting. I had been doing only 5 hours a week, and then I had to adjust to 4 hours a day, which was a challenge, but I got used to it pretty quick. But then they added more hours and wanted me to do more. So then going from 4 hours a day to 5 hours a day was a bigger challenge than I expected. So that's been really, really interesting to adjust to that, but it's been good. And I'm getting up early, and I'm usually starting work between 7 and 7:30 or between 7 and 8 in the morning. I shoot for 7, doesn't always happen exactly then, but then I can be done like between 12 and 1. And then I have the afternoon and evening to do my projects, and it's just been really great. I've had flexibility in my hours, so if I really need a break, I can stop and do something else for a while and then go back to it. If I want to stretch out those 5 hours all day long, I can do that. They just want me starting early in the morning because they're 2 hours later, and so I'm fine with that. So yeah, so most of my work on Upwork has been as a ghostwriter, but now I'm doing online research and video draft writing, like script draft writing, first draft, and that's just incredibly enjoyable as well. And even with my ghostwriting, I did a lot of research. I love research, and so that's been really, really fun. And then I've done several little things like editing and article writing and all that. With Upwork, you do have to watch because you'll have people on there wanting to pay you pennies, basically, to do something that you have to be a good writer to do. So first of all, I skip anybody who's looking for a beginner pay, like who just wants to pay you $10 or like a small amount, something that comes out to $2 an hour or $5 an hour. I won't even mess with those. So watch that very carefully. Go a little bit below when you're first starting and when you're first starting new skill sets. But then once you know, calculate for yourself how long it took you to do that job, and then you can figure out how much you want to be making hourly, and you can put up a bigger amount. And there have been some jobs I've turned down because they weren't willing to pay me really what I wanted to get paid to do that. There was a ghostwriting job where they wanted me to write the whole book, and it would have been really, really fun. And they liked my writing, and we went through a whole process of, they paid me to do a little bit of writing for them, and we interviewed and all this stuff. And he thought he was offering me a lot of money, but he wanted me to write his, I don't know, I think it was like a full-size book. It might have been 60 to 70,000 words. I think it was 60,000 words, and he wanted me to write the entire thing and do all the, all the planning and everything for only like $2,000. And after having done ghostwriting and having that experience under my belt and knowing that I'm a good writer, I just wasn't willing to do it for that cheap anymore. So I said, no, I charge this much, basically $1,000 for every 10,000 words. And so then I was said, would you pay me $5,000 for 50,000 words or something like that? And but he was like, no, I can't do that. It's out of my budget. So there have been times where I've turned down work when, just because of that time in my life, I was busy and I didn't feel like I had to underbid. But then sometimes if you don't put your price down, you don't get the work. And there have been other times where I needed work, so I put my price down a little bit. So that's an ongoing evolution. While I'm waiting for my own writing to take off, and my true goal and dream is to make enough income that I am just doing my own writing and writing my own books. That's so fun. So I'm doing all that on the side during all this, working with my agent, all this stuff. It's been really fun. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions below. If you're interested in trying Upwork, it's real easy to get started. One thing I noticed was that if I worked with one client for more than one contract, Upwork over time would reduce the fees that they took out. So it starts out kind of high, like I think 20%. But with that one client, she kept renewing my contract for other books. They lowered that till it came down to 10 or 5 or something. I don't know what it was, but so my pay got higher too from that. And that was really, really good. I was really thankful for that. So anyway, thanks for joining me for coffee this morning. And if you have any questions, leave them below, or if you have your own experience with Upwork or other sites like that, let me know. Have a good day.